They come in the door, within seconds, one of them shoots your brother in the head.
Right.
5 eyewitnesses.
They know, they just ain't telling.
0 suspects.
Snitches get stitches.
These are the circumstances surrounding the murder of legendary Music Hall of Famer Run DMC's Jam Master Jay.
That's tricky.
They established themselves as the Beatles of hip-hop.
Now,
What's it like for you to stand here where your brother was murdered?
Oh, it's eerie.
Crime Watch Daily returns to the scene of the crime, hoping to solve the unsolvable.
Is there any doubt in your mind that your brother knew his killer?
No.
Jason Mizell, aka Jam Master Jay, grew up in the Queens neighborhood of Hollis, New York. The youngest of 3 siblings, he took an interest in music early on.
He always loved music, and I allowed him to play the music and then dance in the house, whatever, you know. But I didn't know it was as serious as it was.
Then came an opportunity.
Like called a battle, DJ battle. It started in the park.
A place where neighborhood friends started to hone their musical skills as a trio.
When it came about with Run and D getting together, and they called Jay in.
From DJing in the park to center stage with Grammy Award-winning group Run DMC, selling out stadiums in the mid-'80s in what was branded a new school of hip-hop, which sampled rock music. Raheem from the group Grandmaster Flash toured with Run DMC. He remembers Jay as the kind of guy who would help friends and strangers alike if they were in need.
Jam Master Jay single-handedly helped to commercialize rap music.
Then just 5 years after their first album, rap music changed.
There was a sort of a changing of the guard, as it were, in the 1989, 1990, and then that introduced a different brand of hip-hop, which was gangster rap.
The rap scene more violent now. Jay took precautions.
Was Jason carrying a gun for self-defense at the time?
Yeah, I'm quite sure he was. I'm quite sure he should have been.
It's the day before Halloween, and there's an eerie feeling in the air.
And I'm feeling funny, like I know something's going on. Like, why am I feeling like this? I never felt like that before.
Jam Master Jay is in his Queens, New York recording studio along with 5 others when
There was a buzz at the door, at the recording studio door. 2 people that came in, and as soon as they got in, Jay couldn't reach for the handgun, the pistol that he had, that was lying on the sofa next to him. He didn't have enough time to get it. Before he knew it, he was shot.
And just like that, a member of one of the most influential acts in hip-hop culture, gone.
They told me that somebody had killed him. I said, did what? How, you know, what you mean somebody killed him? For what? It just totally shocked me. I was just in total shock.
NYPD homicide detective Derek Parker is retired at the time of Jay's death, but is called back to assist with the investigation.
Jay was shot once in the head.
Right, execution style, yes.
In front of a studio full of people, according to Detective Parker, 5 potential eyewitnesses to be exact.
They all know something. Because there's no way that I'm going to be in the studio when some killing go down and I don't know nothing.
I think it was an inside job myself. I think whoever did it was already there.
Former Detective Parker tends to agree with Jay's family and immediately turns his attention to the person who he says reportedly let the assailants in, the receptionist, Lydia High.
Lydia is the person who buzzed them in.
Yes, Lydia is the person that buzzed them in.
Why did she buzz them in?
Well, Lydia had to know who they were before she buzzed them in. It had to be somebody she knew.
You spent some time talking to Lydia.
I spent a lot of time talking to Lydia.
Lydia and other eyewitnesses are interviewed at length by the NYPD. Names of possible suspects emerge.
What are the possibilities?
Was Big D, Darren Jordan, and Little D, his son.
Darren Jordan, aka Big D, is an executive at Def Jam Records, and his son Carl Jordan, aka Little D, is a rapper.
Big D and Little D.
Right.
What is their relationship to Jay?
They were friends of Jay. They knew him from the neighborhood.
Why would they want to kill Jay?
Possibly, and this is only a theory, that they had some kind of dispute, some kind of beef, a debt that Jay owed, that Jay probably couldn't pay, and this is what happened.
Police question Little D, but he's released and never charged. Both father and son deny any involvement in Jay's killing. In fact, Big D is calling for justice for Jay in this documentary. 2 turntables and a microphone.
Everybody that was in the studio at that day is a culprit and should be arrested, should have been arrested, or should be buried.
Then there's another person of interest, Jay's business partner, Randy Allen.
From what we know, Randy ran out, saw what happened. I think he had a gun or a weapon that he may have had, and he might have fired some shots at these guys when they were running as they left.
So Randy hears the gunshots, walks out, sees what's happened, grabs his gun and goes after the two
That's what
assailants.
we were told, yes.
But just how real are his partner's seemingly heroic actions? Investigators discover an insurance policy. Turns out Randy would have a lot to gain financially if Jay died. Police wonder, could it be a possible motive for murder?
This theory with Randy about the insurance money was explored by the police and by myself, and I don't really think that held a lot of weight.
Allen was never charged and denies any involvement in the killing. But in a small studio filled with friends and fellow artists,
somebody he knew did it.
And according to police, someone saw who murdered Jam Master Jay.
How you not know? How somebody walk into the door and you don't see them? Why nobody know who this person is? They know, they just ain't telling.
Until now.
And who do we think pulled the trigger?
Legendary Run DMC DJ Jam Master Jay is shot to death in his New York recording studio. There are 5 potential eyewitnesses in the studio at the time of the shooting, but unbelievably, no solid leads. Until now, retired NYPD homicide detective Derek Parker reveals the findings from his own extensive investigation.
The person of interest that really came out in this case was Ronald Tennard Washington. Why? Because he was a neighborhood guy. Why? Because they knew him. Why? Because he implicated himself as being in that area at the time of that murder. So I definitely believe that he's definitely one of the guys involved.
Ronald Tennard Washington's name was in the mix from day one. Cops pegged him as a possible lookout, but Detective Parker says Washington was much more.
And who do we think pulled the trigger?
That we're unsure of yet. That we don't know.
But you firmly believe Washington was one of the 2 men?
I firmly believe that, yes.
And while investigators stop short of that allegation, Parker points to what he calls guilty behavior by Washington around the time of the killing, when he agreed to an interview with a New York newspaper and pointed the finger squarely at someone else.
He tried to unimplicate himself by giving an article saying that he witnessed Big D and Little D go into the studio and not himself. So, I mean, he put that out there in the news.
But if Ronald Tennard Washington is one of the men who entered Jay's studio that fateful night, why hasn't he been arrested and charged with the murder of Jam Master Jay?
This case has been very difficult because the police department, like anything else, they want to have a sure win case, and especially the DA's office. And they want to put all the evidence together that they have because this involves a music icon. This is not just a normal person. It's somebody who's really famous, who's big, and they don't want to go to trial and lose this case.
But then he's not exactly running around free. Not long after Jam Master Jay's death, the DA's office charged Washington with a series of other crimes.
Some robberies, some commercial robberies, and I know that the feds had indicted him.
And they have enough hard evidence to win a conviction. 6 years after the murder of Jam Master Jay, Washington was sentenced to 17 years behind bars.
Off the streets.
Off the streets, yes.
But still no justice for Jay. And what about the second unidentified person who walked into the studio that tragic night?
Who was the other man?
That one we're not sure of yet.
Hoping to find more answers, we head back to the crime scene, Jay's studio where he was shot down in cold blood.
What's it like for you to stand here where your brother was murdered?
Oh, it's eerie.
Was this an inside job? Did the person who killed your brother know him?
Yep, yes, I believe that. I
You're
believe
positive?
that, so yes, I believe that all
No
my heart.
question.
No doubt in my mind. Not a doubt. I believe everybody that's in here that day knows something about what happened that day. And
they're not talking.
ain't talking.
Once inside, it's notable the studio's layout, small, intimate. It would be nearly impossible not to see the person who pulled the trigger. But then imagine if you were sitting right next to Jay when he was shot. Well, someone was.
Sitting next to Jay, was another man who was shot in the leg.
That was Tony Rincon.
A close friend of Jay's and the eyewitness of eyewitnesses that night with a front row seat to murder.
And what does Tony say about what went down?
Well, Tony's always said that he doesn't recall who that was and doesn't remember. However, I don't think Tony's telling the entire truth. I think he does know, but he might be fearful as well. He might be scared that he doesn't want to say who it is.
Did the bullet exit? Yeah.
In this interview, just a few years after Jay's murder, Tony describes the events of that night, oddly recalling every detail except the identity of the shooter.
I just hear fast footsteps, and then I hear Jay say, like, oh, heard the shot, and that's when I got hit in my leg.
And Parker has dug up evidence he says shows this wasn't a random shooting. It was a hit that Jay saw coming.
I learned about the threats that Jay was getting was that he was receiving phone calls from anonymous calls saying, I'm going to get you, or I'm going to shoot you. So I think he knew who the person was on the other end of that line, or who these people were.
But if Jay knew these people and eyewitnesses saw them, why won't anyone talk? Detective Parker writes about this frustrating phenomenon in his book, Notorious COP.
There's no snitch rule where people in the street say, you know, snitches get stitches. You can't talk to the police, you can't talk to authorities.
We reached out to Jay's receptionist, Lydia Hott, and Tony Rincon, the man sitting right next to the iconic DJ when the fatal shot was fired. Neither one is now talking. And unfortunately, the multiple surveillance cameras around the studio weren't saying much either.
So what the cops told me is somebody took all the cameras and turned them offline.
So there was no tape in the security system?
Yeah.
The camera was offline?
Offline.
There is no footage of Jay's killing, but his presence is still felt at his old studio, where producers who knew and worked with Jay remember him fondly.
There's a lot of artists today that we wouldn't know of if it wasn't for Jam Master Jay, who are very famous today.
But while Jay is gone, his memory has not been forgotten.
The Hollis community essentially commissioned this mural of Jam Master Jay 14 years ago. And to this day, people still come by, lay hands on it, light candles, and every year, on the anniversary of his murder, they have a vigil.
Today is his day. Today is his day. We're celebrating his life right now.
I miss him so much, and I just hate that it had to be him.
The Run DMC era, they created hip hop. The Adidas, of course. I mean, I love the song.
Tricky, 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 tricky.
That's tricky. Do you think this case will ever be solved?
I think it will, because I know currently the detectives met with me and from the Cold Case Squad, and I think they're currently working on this case, so they're trying to resurrect it.
In fact, this cold case is hot again. It's been reopened, finally giving Jay's family some hope for closure.
Ever since my brother got killed, it's not the same. Everybody in Hollis will tell you it's not the same. Hollis has changed. It has changed. Taking him has taken something from Hollis. He's irreplaceable. Irreplaceable.